Hello, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in to the Rhythmic Resonance Podcast. This is your host, TR, and this week I sat down with Drem. Drem is a local artist who grew up right here in Missoula, Montana, and is one of the most versatile artists I've met so far, with styles that range from horrorcore trap and phonk to alternative rap and jazz hip-hop. When I was first introduced to Connor, it was through his podcast, Unreleased Heat, which documented local artists and gave them a chance to show off their unreleased music, and I was genuinely inspired by it. I can honestly say he was a big reason I started this podcast, as a way to give local artists a platform to speak about their experiences and lives as they navigate the Montana scene. Since then, Drem has continued to throw community events like open mics and my favorite, Drem N Friends shows by creating space for artists to be themselves. And I think it's a very important piece in our puzzle as we continue to try and bolster the local scene and work at building a stronger foundation for the hip-hop genre. But before I say too much, here's Drem on the Rhythmic Resonance Podcast, episode number 8 at Area 41 Collective. So, where'd you grow up?
Man, I grew up right here in Missoula, Montana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a Zootown baby.
Fire, dude.
I'm from Monroe, Washington, originally. My mom moved over here when I was about 4. She met my dad and moved over here with him.
Yeah.
He was a teacher at Sentinel when I was growing up.
Oh, okay.
And I went to Lewis and Clark Elementary, Washington Middle, Hellgate High School. Good old Zootown.
All over.
Yeah, it's an interesting place to grow up.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How so?
I think that there is a sense of free. I think Montana in general, but specifically Missoula, there's like this sense of freedom that you get because there's so many like river trails and like so much places to walk around.
There's a lot to do.
And yeah, especially when you're like a kid that doesn't have a lot of money, you know, you can go be a hooligan on the river. Ride your bike everywhere. I've touched every like square inch of this town on a bike. And I just think that's a super unique experience that a lot of people growing up in bigger towns don't get.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of like, I hate to say it, but safety.
Oh, for sure.
You never worried about like getting kidnapped as a kid or anything.
Yeah.
So
or like running into some like violent situation or anything.
Yeah.
It's just very like safe.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which like some people say like, oh, well, then there's no struggle, blah, blah, blah. But like, isn't that a good thing?
Yeah.
Isn't that
like,
a good thing?
Isn't it a good thing to be able to like have a little bit of like
to be able to wander my town
peace of mind
as a young child?
Yeah.
But yeah, good old Missoula.
That's great.
Yeah.
What were you like into growing up? You know, like I know you kind of mentioned a little outside exploration.
Yeah, I was a very sporty child.
Okay.
My dad was a like high school track star. He grew up in Havre, Montana.
Ooh, Havre.
Little tiny Havre.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like the fastest kid in the state when he was in high school.
Damn.
So super sporty growing up. My dad had me in baseball and little Grizz football.
Hey, okay.
And I enjoyed it, definitely.
Yeah.
As I got older, I started to stray away from it. A lot of reading, too. I was a big reader when I was a kid. A lot of like fantasy books.
Bro.
Ton, like super into like the Lightning Thief books and like
Rick Riordan.
Yeah, dude. Like the Gregor, the Overlander series. Did you ever read those?
No.
Oh, those books were good, bro.
Okay.
It was about a dude who like, man, I can't remember the gist, but he like ends up like finding this like underground world under New York, I think. And it's a bunch of like rat people and like.
I feel like I've heard of that though.
Super good.
Okay.
That might have to be when I go back and read as an adult.
Yeah.
But then a lot of outside time. That was like that was I grew up in a very kid-friendly neighborhood. I lived like 2 blocks away from my elementary school.
Nice.
And on like either side of the block there was like a kid.
Just
so we
around.
We were just always outside. That was like,
I feel that.
If it's warm outside, you don't get to be inside. Like,
it's not worth it.
no, it's not. I didn't grow up with a lot of TV. I had an Xbox and a GameCube, but I never really got to play it that much because it just wasn't. That's not what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as an adult, I'm thankful for that because I feel like I'm able to use my brain a little bit better. But on the same side of the card, it's like I'm addicted to video games as an adult.
Totally. You're like, I'm trying to make up all of the years that I missed when I was younger.
Exactly. But yeah, super active kid.
Great.
Yeah, super active kid. Never in the house. Always something to do.
Yeah, there always is.
Always.
Mom's always trying to get you to go out and do something or just not sit in the house.
And if I am sitting in the house, it's music. Music has always been number one for me.
Okay.
I grew up on like a ton of Pearl Jam and like U2 and Jimmy Buffett.
Nice.
White people shit.
For sure.
No, like that's, but that was like, there was always like a CD in my boombox or like something.
Yeah.
Always music.
Something playing, something like always listening to it.
Always.
That's great, dude.
Yeah. My bio dad is, I've only met him like once.
Okay.
But he's a musician. So I feel like it's like in my blood.
For sure.
Like
it was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What did you like? Who inspired you musically? I guess early on, or like who was kind of somebody that you really?
My grandma was a big one.
Okay.
My grandma was a piano teacher forever.
That's great.
So that was a big one, and then I got put into drum lessons when I was 6 or 7.
Dang.
Shout out electronic sound and percussion
Hey,
over on
ESP.
Higgins. Yeah.
Great.
Checkers Barker, the owner, was my drum instructor, so he was a big influence for me.
Damn.
I did drum lessons from the time I was, I think, 6 or 7 to like 13 or 14.
Wild.
So that was a big one for me. And then like any like band director I ever had. Like my middle school band director, Mr. Tipton, was huge, especially in like learning new kinds of music.
Yeah.
Like getting into funk and jazz. Mr. Tipton was huge on that.
Dude.
So basically, I think anybody that I kind of ran into in my life that was doing anything involving music was that like inspiration.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's badass. Not like, like we have all these famous artist people that people all look up to, or like put on the pedestal as far as like, like Eminem or Billy Paul or, like all those like famous artists, well known. And then it's cool to have like people who are directly in front of you who like are creators as well.
I agree.
And
something special about it.
There is. Oh yeah, dude. I feel that. Like all my choir teachers and band directors were like, I don't think about it often, but they were the ones who were always like, keep doing the music thing.
Yeah, they
like,
lit that first match, man.
Exactly. They were the ones who got you excited about it with like choosing songs per performances or like, hey, you should check out this guy because he's really dope. Or, just like those are the people who like inspired you to like step outside of your box a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's badass, dude.
And I'd be remiss to say that it's just like people I know. I was obsessed with Elvis as a kid. Like obsessed with Elvis.
What did you think of the doc?
I don't think I watched it.
No,
I didn't even know that came out.
Or like the bio.
The biopic with Jacob Elordi.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think I watched it. I could have though.
Yeah.
I intake so much media that my memory, dude, I'm the worst. I probably intake too much media, but yeah, obsessed with Elvis. There's like old home videos of me of like doing Elvis impersonations when I'm like 4 or 5 years old.
Legendary.
And I had like Elvis posters and like obsessed with Elvis.
That's great.
And then Johnny Cash was a big one too. I wanted to be Johnny Cash. When that movie Walk the Line came out, I think I was 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And just watching Joaquin Phoenix in that movie, just nailed. I wanted to be Johnny Cash so bad.
Totally.
The Man in Black. Are you fucking kidding me? Cool. The coolest persona of all time. In music. 100%.
I love that.
I think him and MF Doom. Him and MF Doom are like the two just unbeatable personas in music.
Yeah. So simple, but like sits so deep.
The Man in the Mask and the Man in Black. That's just like, I literally just got chilly chills.
I love it. I love it.
Something sweet about it.
So when did you kind of decide that music was going to be a pursuit, or did it, or did it just kind of like happen, or, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was ever like an active decision that I made. Like I said, music was always kind of there.
Right.
Whether it be like playing piano or playing drums or whatever. So I'm a high school dropout. I would have graduated in 2015, but I left in 2014. And after a couple of years of being a degenerate and not doing what I should do, and like I ran away from home.
Damn.
It was a very interesting couple of years.
For sure.
I decided to go to Job Corps in 2016.
Okay.
And while I was in I went to Anaconda Job Corps Center, which is in Anaconda, Montana.
Yeah.
It's one of the more popular ones in the state, so there was kids from all around the country there.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had ever witnessed like freestyle sessions.
Oh, okay.
A lot of the kids from like Cali and then like the southern states, after trade and after the day was over, they'd hang out like either outside of the dorms or in one of the dorms and just play beats.
That's
and
cool.
write together and like do freestyle sessions.
Damn.
And it was something I had never been insanely into hip hop.
Yeah.
Really, my only like real basis of knowledge for hip hop was what my mom listened to. So like Tribe Called Quest, Run DMC, Beastie Boys.
Fire.
Yeah, so that was like what I knew as hip hop. But then like I started kind of hanging out with these dudes and listening to a lot of like Lil Durk and Young Thug, like early Young Thug.
For sure.
And
Lifestyle.
Gucci. Yeah, exactly, bro. And I got introduced to Suicide Boys around that time too.
Beautiful.
And I ended up just kind of like, man, this is cool as hell.
Yeah.
This is cool as hell.
Yeah.
Poetry has always been a big part of I knew I could write well. I knew I had this basis of rhythm because I was a drum and a piano player. So I understood rhythm.
Yes. Pockets, flows,
exactly.
Everything. Totally.
And so I was like, I could totally do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started writing. I think back to when I first started, and it was so bad.
Bro, that's how everyone starts out. I think that's like, you're the third person to tell me that, at least this weekend, of like their genesis of like.
So bad.
That's how it is though. Like you'd have no reference. You don't really like, not everyone starts out great and famous,
Especially coming from Montana.
Totally.
You have no basis of what a real like hip hop scene looks like.
Unless you're like, you were really involved with like people that you knew, but other than that, if you didn't know, you really didn't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, through that, through Job Corps, I got a job at the ranch at Rock Creek, which is a luxury guest ranch out in Phillipsburg.
Oh yeah.
And they had staff housing, so this was like the first time I ever lived by myself. And after my shifts, I had like it was a little like log cabin that I was living in that had this like porch that wrapped around it. So I'd get home from my shifts, which usually ended about like 9 or 10 p.m. And I didn't work again until the next day until like 2 or 3 p.m. So I would pull my laptop out onto the porch. I would play beats. And do you remember like Omegle or like Chat Roulette?
Yes.
And I would turn on Omegle and I would just sit there and like rap for people.
Yo.
That was my intro. I would sit and write and people would pop up and I'd be like, yo, can I rap for you?
Dude.
Like, my name's Drem. I'm just starting. Like, let me rap for you. And that was my intro. That was how I initially like started getting followers on my Instagram and stuff.
Really?
Was just like rapping for people on Omegle. And through doing that, I literally would do that for 5-6 hours a night.
Crazy.
Every single night, because I'm living in. If you don't know, for the listeners, Phillipsburg, Montana is literally like population 200.
Yeah.
It's tiny.
Tiny.
It's tiny. There's one bar.
Yeah.
I wasn't 21 yet, so that's all I did. I sat on my porch and I wrote music and I rapped for people on Omegle. Dude. But with that, like, so that was 2016 when I really first started.
Damn.
And then I recorded my first song with Vocab. Shout out Vocab. In 2017.
Crazy.
And that was just another one of those ones where it was just like a social media thing. I had seen kind of on Facebook or whatever that he was making music in the Missoula area. So I just hit him up and I was like, hey man, like I know we don't know each other. Yeah. I'm trying to find a place to record. Anyway, you could help me out. And he just invited me over, and that's like a lifelong bond now. That is one of my best friends.
100%.
I just like to make another shout out to him and get well soon. I know this is coming out later, but he just had gallbladder surgery yesterday. Got that sucker popped out. So
that's the worst.
Shouts out to Vocab. Hope you're doing well, my man. I love you.
Big facts.
So yeah, it really did just start as like as a hobby.
Yeah.
I never really had ideas of like doing anything with it or like doing shows. But then that day recording with Vocab and having somebody in person who was kind of doing the same thing as me, but on a higher level.
For sure.
Give me that, like, man, you're good. Like, you're good at this.
Oh, yeah.
You should keep doing it. That was kind of that final spark to be like, okay, this is what I want to do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just kind of like took off from there. I mean,
that summer of 2017, 2018, I can't remember which. I did my first performance at the illest festival ever, TIFE, which is a festival that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, I was going to say, I was like, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so it was run by, did you ever hear about Alumni?
I did.
Yeah, so that was ran by Javon Jordan and Tyler Overtime, the founders of Alumni.
I've heard of Overtime for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was like, it was a little festival they did out on Rock Creek.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was the first time I performed, and that was like game over from there. Going up and like I've never had stage fright or anything.
For sure.
I've always been kind of like a show-offy kid. Honestly, that's like the only way I can put that. I love attention. I think a lot of people are in our industry that deny that fact too are liars.
For sure.
That's like I like attention.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But that turned into like performing for the first time and truly being like, man, I love this.
Yeah.
The feeling that I get from like sharing what I do with other people and getting that positive feedback, that was game over. That was like, this is all I want to fucking do.
That's great.
And that's all I did from 2018 to 2022.
Damn.
It was just travel and do shows. I moved where the music took me.
Yeah.
I lived in Helena. I lived in Salt Lake City. I lived in Gainesville, Florida. I just went where the music took me for a really long time.
Yeah.
It was a cool little life. But, it started about 9 years ago now, I'd say.
Great.
Yeah.
And you've just been rocking ever since.
I feel like that was a very long form answer.
No. I mean, you gave me everything I wanted.
Good.
Like a Korean barbecue.
Just a little bit of everything.
A little beambop. You gave me everything I needed.
That makes me want hot pot now, dude.
Bro. So, where do you feel like you're sitting at now? I mean, as far as like the music goes, since those like 9 years have gone by.
I've been thinking about this a lot.
Yeah.
I think I'm in kind of a tough place with it, to be honest with you. I've talked about it with you before, I know, and Mello, and Signal. Mm-hmm. It just becomes a very, how do I want to put this without sounding so like, woe is me, and like,
totally.
And I don't want to discourage anybody either that's like just starting this out.
Right.
Because I'd like to preface that with like being from Montana.
Yeah.
You got to know that like this isn't going to be the traditional path.
Yeah.
If you want to make hip hop music.
100%. So,
you do shows and perform for 7-8 years all over the country for a bunch of different like bigger name artists, and you get through those 8 years and you find yourself exactly where you were when you started.
Yeah.
It is like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It does kind of it's hard to push out of your head like, why am I even fucking doing this? Why am I trying to like monetize this still or like make some kind of headway? So in the past year, 2 years, I'd say, since we filmed Last of the Nobodies in 2023, that was a big eye-opening moment for me in changing my attitude on like why I'm doing music.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, it was like, I'm going to blow up. I'm going to make a career off of this. I'm going to have $1 million in the bank.
Act like I don't know nobody.
Exactly, though. Like, that was the plan. That was like, I'm going to live in Los Angeles or like Austin, Texas, and I'm going to have this big house, and I'm going to live off of my music.
Yep.
But it gets to a point where you have to be realistic with yourself. And so I'm at a point now where I will never, ever, ever lose my love for making music.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I do it because I love it and it makes me happy.
Yep.
And it doesn't need to be for anybody else. It doesn't need to make me money because I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
But with that, I've kind of transitioned into a more like community minded aspect instead of just, I'm doing this so I can blow up and I can get my money right. And I can have an easy life. It's transitioned into a much more like, what can I do? I've been doing this in my community for 9 years. Mm-hmm. Now, what can I do to like give back?
Totally.
So, I started doing my monthly open mics. I started doing the Drem N Friends shows.
Yep.
I've done a few episodes of my podcast, which I kind of fell behind on because editing sucks.
I mean,
I hate
your
editing.
podcast inspired me to do my podcast.
And
so
that
it's
is the
like,
point.
It's mutual.
Good.
For
And
sure, man.
That's the point right
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
That is the point. I just want to, I don't know how to, I sound like a broken record, but do more on the community aspect and just uplift as many people as I can. And like,
well, I think you like understand the value of being supported and being encouraged, and like, because maybe you didn't get that at all. You're like doing it because of like something that you didn't really ever have in that sense. So it's like, it gives you this drive of like an empowerment as well, that I'm doing this so that other people can not experience what I experienced, and that they can like be stronger through that time period that will hopefully lift them up and keep them, going on the upwards trajectory.
Easier for these younger, like I think about Jobo, young Jobo, all the time. What a talented fucking kid, dude.
Jobo, Kimchi,
bro. Kimchi is ridiculous.
Unreal.
Kimchi is ridiculous.
Unreal.
And I think about like where I was when I started compared to where these young kids are when they're starting, and it's like, bro.
Yeah.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
I've said this my entire career. It takes one of us. Yeah. It takes truly,
it really does.
It takes one of us to get like on the radar on YouTube or on a Breakfast Club radio show.
To get the eyes fixated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then it's like a
domino.
A ripple effect.
Yeah, exactly.
That one rock falls initially, and then it's just who comes next.
Facts.
So if I can be an uplifting voice and like help these younger kids that are so good at what they do,
dude, for real.
Hell yeah. The music has really kind of taken a backseat. I still love making music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm focused a lot more on the community aspect, the business aspect.
Yeah.
How can we make this work for everybody aspect.
Well, and I think too, like thinking about other places where they have that structure of business, people are able to have managers, they have social media people, they have engineers, they have all of these different avenues of like, this is what we have to make the artist life easier in a way. I was listening to a pod the other day that was like Lil Brother, like in like really solid New York rap group duo. They were talking about touring, and like they are like from an era of hip hop where like the business side of things, you were either in the business or you're doing it very, very independently and like under the radar. But like they were like on their farewell tour or going on their farewell tour, and they were talking about like how they didn't understand why touring sucked so much, but it was because they had like maybe somebody doing that for them and they never had to deal with it. And so like being here, it's like, oh yeah, I feel that. Like not really having a basis knowledge of like what it takes to be the independent artist, to like do everything yourself, social media, or like finding someone who you connect with enough to like mix your songs, make your beats, all that kind of stuff. If you really want to pursue it in like the degree that is like the highest degree, and like the way that you should be doing it. 'Cause like we all love rapping over YouTube beats, but at the end of the day, if you can make some like local, or you can make like something that's actually like organic, that's 10 times better. That sets the standard up high.
Above.
Totally.
Definitely.
But just like the aspect of people being in other places and having all of these avenues, they can go to the studio, have someone mix their stuff up super well. And then here it's like, you can still do that. It's just not as prevalent
Yeah.
And so you have to like, it's a lot of weight on a lot of people, like just, and it's overwhelming a little bit to be like, I have to figure out all of this other stuff aside from just making the music, you know? And that's like, I'd say the toughest part. Even I'm starting to realize moving up here is like
tough.
so much other stuff to deal with than just like, I thought making the music was the hard part.
No,
dude,
No.
not even
Not even a little bit.
No.
That is the easiest part.
Yeah, at this point.
And I had that realization when I moved to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
I ended up landing with a group called Legacy.
Oh.
Legacy Media. The three main guys were Boston, CF Shun, and Speak Wisely.
Okay.
And the system they had set up there was crazy, man. They were working in a studio, so it was a huge group. When the studio was full, when the whole like group was in the studio, there was almost 20 of us in the studio. And it was a studio called Counterpoint Studios, and we always worked with this guy named Wesley Thomas, who has engineered for Post Malone, has recorded for a bunch of big name artists in that studio. And it was crazy to be able to come from Montana, and where everybody is doing everything themselves, basically, from the ground up. Everybody's doing everything themselves, to Salt Lake City and meeting this like label almost where studio time is paid for, engineering is taken care of, shows are taken care of, promotion is taken care of. They just want you because you're talented and they want you in the studio with you.
Totally.
And that is like realizing that these bigger cities and these places that have a foundation laid down, like that's how it's happening. No wonder it's fucking easier for people to get a jump off in these bigger places.
Totally. Or like pop off, or, you know, like,
especially when you have a team of 20 other artists around you boosting you, and like it was a whole new world.
And an
It was
established
crazy.
community as well of people who like, there are people who love the hip hop stuff and they will show out to anything hip hop.
Where
You
there's
think of like
actual
LA,
sold out shows
people
happening.
are always on the street doing their music stuff. There's always people supporting regardless. It's just like, you know, and that doesn't happen here. Not yet.
Doesn't. No, and that's I mean,
know?
yeah, that's what I think all of us here at Area 41 and like the Last of the Nobodies, that's what we're trying to change.
Yes.
Me with becoming more community minded, and like that is what I'm trying to change. One of my good friends, Shad the Beast, shout out. I met him when I was living in Helena. He lives in Austin, Texas now, and fuck, it looks like he has so much fun. He's with this group called Space Goons, and they just performed at South by Southwest a couple weeks ago.
Damn.
They do shows every single weekend.
Sweet.
A lot of them are like outside at farmers markets, and it looks so much fun. And it's just so easy to be consistent. But the fact that the Last of the Nobody show did so well was,
bro, we gotta talk about that too a little bit, because it's like, you were part of that. And what was your experience like?
I literally, there's no cameras, but I just started smiling instantly because it's just so fun to think about, man. For one to even be invited,
huge,
was like, man, that was in itself like, okay, I've been doing something right for the past 9 years.
Totally.
Like, but wow, what a cool idea to like take 20, 23 different people, stick them in a house together for 10 days and tell them to make music.
Wild.
I don't think I knew what I expected going into it.
Sure.
Because really the only people I knew going into it were like the Rez Boys, or Benny, FRB, Shadow, and then Signal, and then Coulter. Those were really the only people I knew like well going into it. So yeah, pulling up to the house on Flathead, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was like almost immediate, this bond that you make with these people when you're all there for this common goal and you all love the same thing. It was literally like immediate. Like we started making music the day we arrived.
Totally.
And yeah, it's just unlike anything I've ever been a part of. It was so cohesive and cooperational and happy. and like there was no ego.
Yeah.
And I think in hip hop in general, there is just this idea of ego and this this ID that everybody has.
I think that's like a big part of it, but I don't think it has to be the focus. You know,
shouldn't
like
be the focus.
the competitive nature of hip hop, like having the ego is like, no, that's like that's the sauce that you have.
Yeah.
You know, you are the sauce.
Yeah.
And you create it. But at the same time, that doesn't have to be overshadowing like the mission.
Creativity?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that is what Last of the Nobodies was. It was
Yeah.
so easy it was so easy. Yeah. Especially like working with producers I've never worked with before.
On point, just like flawless.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, the project in itself is like,
I couldn't believe how good it turned out, man.
it's great. I love it, dude. I still listen to it to this day. Like it's one of those things.
My favorite offshoot from that though was the Porch Tapes with Fishboy.
Really?
Dude. So I had kind of known Jaya beforehand because we both grew up in Missoula.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we went to the same high school. We knew a lot of the same people, but I had never like hung out with him or made music with him before. So we had his little studio set up on the porch.
Yeah,
and it was cool because you could like see the lake and that was my favorite place to be. There was like 5-6 different studios set up, but I always found myself coming back to the porch and sitting with Jaya. Fishboy, he is just his ideas are just so out there. His beats, like you wouldn't expect them to like hit like they do, I guess, almost.
For sure.
But they're so fun to rap over and so easy to rap over.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Porch Tapes that came out of that were probably like my favorite project.
Hell yeah, dude.
Kimchi out there too. He did that We in the House song. We in the house, we're in the house. I remember that getting created and sitting there just bopping my head and being like, this is the funnest song I've ever heard, bro. I ended up having to leave a little early.
Sure.
I'm a very anxious human being.
Oh, yeah.
I try to be very open about that in my music and everything. Yeah. I started having anxiety attacks about 5 years ago. And, just haven't quite figured it out yet.
Yeah.
But by the end so it was 10 days we were all supposed to be out there, and I got to day 7, and I was just so, like,
gassed.
overwhelmed and gassed. Yeah. And I had done so much creation.
Yeah.
That
you had, like, a ton of verses, I heard.
Yeah.
You were, like, you had a mission that you, like, this, like, what was that?
I don't know how much I ended with, but my thing was, like, I just bounced around so much. Like I finished one verse here in my head. I'm like, okay, we still have 8 hours of the day left. I'm going to try to get into every single studio today and record
Beautiful.
A verse. And that's usually how it happened.
I love that.
I got at least like 6 verses a day done.
Love that.
Which, like, you know what, to be honest, at the end of the day, I'm sad a lot of them didn't make the final cut.
For sure.
But you can't think about it like that when you have 23 artists on a track, on a project.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the whole project turned out so fucking good.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And the ones of mine that they did keep were, like, my favorites. So it was like, heck yeah, that worked out.
That's good.
So, yeah, by the end of that, it was just so much writing and so much socialization. I was just so burnt out.
Yeah.
That I went home on the 7th day, and I, like, literally slept for almost 24 hours.
That's fire.
But then I got super bummed. I was like, man, I shouldn't have left. I should have stayed for those whole 10 days.
I get it, though. I get it. It's like, Farch was kind of saying that, too. It was like, I had to, like, come and go each day because it's just a lot, you know?
A lot.
And especially when it's people you've just met for the first time, and, like, you're just kind of getting your feelers out there. It can be a tough situation, but it's like a cool situation, but it is like a lot of,
it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Pressure,
Definitely.
anything like that. But as, what do they say? Pressure makes the diamonds,
that part. Like, and it sure did, man.
Yeah.
It sure did. I'm super excited for round 2.
Yeah.
Especially because Coulter wants to have like twice the amount of artists on round 2. So just like to get the people on there that weren't there, like you and freaking, like, to get 12 Clouds out there would be sweet.
100%.
Like, I just round 2 is going to be special.
I agree.
I'm excited.
I agree. I think I think as the years go on, if they continue to keep doing it, it's only going to get better, and the support's only going to continue to grow. And I think that's like, there's the one-off thing. It's like, we don't need more one-offs. We need, like, this is happening. We know it's happening. It's just, when is it happening? That's like the big thing, is just keeping that consistency side. And that's how you build build the foundation that
Consistency is
ends up
key.
in building the home, you know? Like,
Consistency is key.
yeah. It's tough though, you
Very.
know?
I struggled with consistency I still struggle with consistency.
It's tough, man.
Super.
It's not easy. I think in Shadow's album, he said repetition builds muscle, and that has been hitting for me so hard because it's like just showing up every day and like just doing it. Sometimes you make it. Sometimes you make something, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're happy, you know, and like just working on that aspect of like just like doing the same thing every day, and then
doing
being
well.
like happy with just being there, because you never know like when the last day could be, you know. And so it's kind of like, I know I just got really deep,
No, that's
but it's
true,
like
though.
living every day to the fullest is like something that's been hitting with me lately. Is like
Same.
you don't know, no one knows, you don't know. And so like if I can finish the day out knowing that I did everything that I could or everything that I should, that's where I want to be.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's like, that's now being around all these artists and people, it's just got me like in that grind mode of like, this is where we're at.
Yeah,
Like,
I think I really
we're going
think
for it.
Last of the Nobodies was a big.
It was, bro.
I was a
Huge.
very, in terms of consistency, and so I was a very desolate person for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
At my heaviest, I was 325 pounds, doing a lot of drugs. Very desolate for a very long time.
Yeah.
Where there was no consistency. I for a very long time just did whatever the fuck I wanted. Excuse me, like whatever I wanted.
For sure.
It didn't matter if it made me feel good or not, or if I knew there was going to be consequences. I just did it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't care about myself, about the outcome, for a really long time. These past 2-3 years have been some of the most eye-opening. I think it started with Last of the Nobodies.
Sure.
Just kind of this. I was starting to feel very stagnant in my music and in my life, and I went to do Last of the Nobodies, and just the boost that has given. Like after that, I started doing my open mic. I started doing my podcast.
Yep.
It was just like, man, there's so much more that I could be doing instead of sitting here feeling like a piece of shit.
Yeah. Or feeling sorry for myself.
Feeling sorry for myself.
100%.
And
100%.
So that was a big like jump for me. And then meeting Kaylee. Was huge. I am so thankful for her because she is so driven and smart, and like she's 24, graduating with her PhD.
Crazy.
Right? So for me, that's like, man, if this person that I love and respect and is so great can do this stuff, why the hell can't I?
Right.
And in the past 3 years, I've lost almost 80 pounds.
Beautiful, man.
I started going to college.
I love that.
You get to a point and where you're tired of being desolate and you're tired of feeling sorry for yourself. And like the music doesn't sound good anymore because you feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
And it just doesn't reflect like, so
you can only be a sad boy for so long before you're like, I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over again. I'm tired of this feeling that I have.
Yeah, because you do it to yourself.
100%.
Like that was the biggest thing I had to look back and realize is like, man, I'm desolate, but it's because I'm not making the right choices.
No, totally, dude. Totally.
And it's...
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I finally figured that out. And thankful for Last of the Nobodies that was such a big jump for me.
100%.
And I think a big part of it was Coulter and Shadow believing in me, and just having that like... Okay, somebody is listening. Somebody's listening.
Totally.
Like that.
Yeah. Having a support system and somebody that you can actually like talk with that cares and who has like a lot of knowledge and who's just like, who are also like good people.
Yep.
You know, like not a mean bone in their body unless they know that you're doing something wrong, you know, and then they'll let you know.
And that's what you need though.
Totally.
Like that was like I was talking about the conversation that Signal and I had the other day.
Yeah.
Just having people around you that can tell you what it is without worrying about hurting your feelings or worrying that it's going to like end a friendship or end a business
important conversations that happen, but like can change everything.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And even makes things like friendship stronger.
Insanely.
You know?
Yeah.
Like just through that, it's mutual respect.
Yep.
And that's
I know what you need.
at.
You know what I need.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%, dude. 100%. I'm so glad to hear that. That's cool. Like that impacted you in that way.
Yeah. Insane. Insanely. And I hope like Coulter especially knows that like what he does for us means the fucking world.
It does. 100%. It really does. I think they do. We just got to keep showing them.
Exactly. That's all we can do.
100%. So I guess like moving to a little bit of the final thoughts.
Yeah.
Is there any advice? I know you kind of like have slowly with each like, question kind of given a little bit of advice there, but like, is there any advice that you would give to maybe just someone who's struggling or someone who doesn't know what to do next, or like, like mindset stuff, anything that you feel kind of led to share?
Man, I would like to say to that, you're never going to know what to do next. As much as you think you will never know.
Yeah.
You can be very confident in the decisions you're making. You can know that the decisions you're making are going to benefit you maybe or will be a detriment, but you never know. Mm-hmm. And I think in terms of creating music and maybe trying to make a living off of it, you kind of have to keep that in your head. You never know.
Yeah.
You could work as hard as you ever could. You could put $1 million into a promotion budget and people still might not grab onto the music. Yeah. You just never know. Yeah. So with that as well, I don't think I'm going to say it word for word, but something that Rick Rubin talks about a lot. If you're putting out music, you've already like done more than most people will ever do in their lifetime. Yeah. It's not about whether people are receiving it well. It's not about whether it's making money. Mm-hmm. If you are putting out a product that at the end of the day you can look back and say, I am happy with that. That is all that matters.
Mission accomplished.
100%. Even if you're not making a cent off of it, that is mission accomplished. And and I kind of talked about earlier, my mindset was a lot different for a long time, where it was just kind of about like, I'm going to make music that will make me money. Yeah. And I listened to some of that music and it's like, man, this sucks. This is not good music.
Totally.
So, I don't fault anybody for thinking that way, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to get ours.
Yep.
But don't worry about it so freaking much. Just make what you love. And at the end of the day, the listeners will follow the people that see you doing. I think that's, I'm kind of going on a tangent.
No. The people who want to find you will find you, and you just like need to trust the process.
Exactly.
As like much as you might want this group of people to listen to it, or these people, it's not really up to you.
It's not.
I know that's something Rick Rubin also says is like, that's not even up to you. It's like,
once you have put that music out into the world,
it's not yours.
It's not
anymore.
yours anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yep. Instagram reel right there.
But yeah, and I think to add to that, just stay true to yourself.
100%.
That is something I've kind of struggled with in my life. I was bullied a lot as a kid. I was a little fat kid. A lot of my bullying started at home because I had stepbrothers who were really mean to me. I was bullied a lot as a kid. So through a lot of times in my early life, I conformed and did what I thought people wanted me to do, or was who people thought wanted me to be. Mm-hmm. And that's exhausting, man.
Yeah.
I think music was a big way to kind of get out of that. I'm taking a philosophy class right now, and I believe it's René Descartes talks about breaking free from nunnage. And that's kind of just like being able to do things for yourself without like advice or somebody else telling you what you need to do. So for a long time I was very like needed to be controlled,
dependent.
On like
sure.
the rules, basically.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've learned that being yourself is more important.
Yeah. And in life,
people like it more.
There really isn't like any rules necessarily. Like you can live, I mean, as long as you're like not a completely shitty person.
Yeah.
You know, like there really isn't any rules in life as far as like restrictions. Like,
I agree.
You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So it's like focusing on like what you want to do and then like just dedicating yourself to it. Like that's really just what it is. Like,
I agree.
Whether that's living life to the fullest, living the life that you want to live, like you can do it.
Being
but
yourself, even if people don't want you to.
100%.
Like,
yeah. And you can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. There is
Agreed.
no restriction or anything on that. So
Very much agreed.
yeah, dude. Yeah, that's badass. That's cool. I like that.
Good.
Homage to noneness or?
Yeah,
breaking
nunnage.
free of-
Breaking free from one's own self-imposed nunnage.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Is that Signal? Is that Signal?
Hello?
Oh, he's here.
Hello?
Hell yeah. Well, I feel like that's a good place to wrap it up. Yeah, man. I appreciate you for coming through.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
Of course, dude. Of course. It was a great convo, and yeah, dude.
Hell yeah.
I'm glad to have you on here. Before I end this episode, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen and support the vision I have of documenting the Montana music scene and highlighting the artists a part of this community who really shine and stand out amongst the crowd. And I couldn't do this without the support and encouragement I've received from many of my listeners, and I'm very grateful for it. But the best way that you can continue to help with this vision is by following the artists that you hear on these episodes. Find them on social media, give them a shout out, and just listen to their music, because there really are some extremely talented people here who love to create and are worth listening to. And support like that is 100% free of charge, and it makes a huge difference to each and every one of us that love music, from artist to fan. It means the world. But as far as the podcast goes, please share it with your friends and your family. Tell your coworkers about it. Tell your boss about it. Just spread the word, because music is such a universal language, and a lot of the time we only get to see creators through exterior lenses, and very rarely do we get to see them for who they really are, which is just human beings with all sorts of talents and different perspectives, but a lot of those things shape the world as we know it. So keep listening to local music, keep supporting local artists, and thank you for listening. All love.